have a excellent guest here on the show. She's a young lady who used to get on my nerves all the time, but she knows I love her to death. Her name is not Kendall, it's Lily Williams.
So close.
She is from the Arlington Museum of Art, and y'all know I used to volunteer there because I used to talk about it all the time when I was on the show before I went to Hawaii, because you know that was my place. I failed to understand how this lovely museum in the middle of Arlington gets some of the best exhibits. So we're going to talk about the museum, we're going to talk about the upcoming exhibit, we're going to talk about some of the old exhibits, and if you can see me, if you are Facebook Live, I have on my Keith Haring shirt, which is one of the exhibits they had in 2019, that people were coming up from San Antonio and Austin and everywhere to see that, because everybody doesn't get that exhibit. So without any further ado, Lily, would you please introduce yourself to our audience, and will you please tell them a little bit about you and the museum?
Well, hello, my name is Lily Williams. I'm the Director of Communication and Education at the Arlington Museum of Art. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Director of Communication and Education at the Arlington Museum of Art. I have been there since 2018. And I actually started as a volunteer too. Mm-hmm. So Mary and I were definitely in the same boat. And I think I annoyed them enough to let me stay.
We even have the same car.
We do.
Same color.
Same wavelength. I started as a volunteer, and eventually they let me start interning and got in on the ground floor and have just been rising through the ranks pretty quickly there. It's a wonderful artistic family.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful to be there. I know museum jobs are definitely difficult to come by, and I feel so lucky that we have this incredible art museum in my hometown. I grew up in Arlington. It's very close to my heart, so I feel so incredibly blessed that I get to be a part of the artistic community here and bring these incredible exhibitions. This is the type of content I would have killed for when I was growing up here. So I love that as part of my title with education, I get to work with AISD too. So I get to lead children's tours, and we work with all the different schools. We're actually doing Youth Art Month right now, which is a 30-plus year tradition we've done. Little fun fact about the museum, we have the largest Youth Art Month in the state of Texas.
Now, how are y'all doing that this year? I know I'm getting ahead of myself because that's one of the things I wanted to talk about. But how are y'all doing that this year?
It's been a lot in my department. Normally it would be in the museum. So we would structure it where we do different networks. So we would pick 2 high schools, and then all of the corresponding junior highs and elementary schools would be included. And all of the teachers would come in and hang the artwork in the building. Because of COVID and because of the exhibition we're preparing for that we are going to talk about, it's all online this year. So that means I have been going through hundreds of children's artwork for the past month or so, and I edit them all into a format that can be posted on our social as well as our website. So it's definitely been a lot in my department, but the pieces are so good, and I'm always blown away at how talented these kids are. They're going to be in our museum before you know it.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, the last one that I was volunteering at was the one in 2019. And just some of that artwork was amazing. And it wasn't just paintings and pictures. One student did art on a tennis shoe, on white tennis shoes. Several of them did that. Some of them did string art. I mean, it was different mediums that I would not have even thought.
And that's really a testament to the artistic educators the AISD has. They get so creative, and I'm always blown away at how they're able to connect with kids on all sorts of different levels. That's one of my favorite parts of my job, is just watching little kids discover that they love art maybe for the first time.
Yeah, it's so much fun, but and to have a place to do it, because Arlington is a small town. It's not Fort Worth, it's not Dallas, it's not Houston, it's not San Antonio. We're a small town, and people think, well, you've got the stadium there. Arlington is a small town, and to have the kind of things that we have here and are continuing to improve upon is amazing. I mean, that's to include where we are right here doing the show. Because one day I'm gonna be doing the show, I'm gonna have a game or something down there, and I won't be paying attention. But anyway, can you tell me a little bit about the staff and the people at the museum?
I'd love to. So we have really a very small staff,
Yeah.
even by museum standards. We actually have 4 paid staff members. To put it into perspective, a larger museum would have anywhere from 20 to even up to 100, depending on the size. We do everything with 4. So there's me, as I mentioned, communication and education. Then my coworker Kendall, who we get confused for each other all the time.
And you look absolutely nothing alike.
Well,
She's like a foot taller than you.
She's a couple inches taller, but I don't know, round face, blonde hair. It's close enough. She is our registrar, and she is in charge of grants. She is an incredible grant writer. We're so incredibly lucky to have her. She's just the hardest worker you'll ever meet. Yeah, she's definitely a blessing for us. And then our director and CEO, we've all gotten title changes recently, so I'm still catching up. Christopher Hightower, he has just been an absolute rock star. He is the reason that the Arlington Museum is where it is today. I think really any amazing exhibition you can think of we've had has been completely thanks to Chris.
Yeah.
He is just, I don't know how he does it. Everybody who meets him loves him, and we have gotten some incredible opportunities thanks to him.
And that's how he got me to volunteer for 2 years. And I mean, I'm sure I'm going to come back. But we were at Jay Gilligan's because my son Aaron was playing, and somebody introduced us, Demi introduced us, and said, Mary doesn't have anything to do. And I gave him my card. And he emailed me the next day and said, call Gary, I have something for you to do.
Well, that leads me to our last staff member. We have Gary Schwartz, who is office manager extraordinaire.
Who controls everything.
He does. We keep offering him a new title, and he keeps saying no. He likes office manager. Everybody else is the director of something. He wants to stay office manager.
But, I mean, the museum is such a fun place. And one of the things I like about it, we're going to talk about some of these exhibits in a little bit, but it not only showcases, the big things like Salvador Dali and cuts the costumes and Keith Haring and some of the other people who are not local. It also showcases some of the local people. Now, I don't know if this piece is still on the back of the museum. There was a local African-American artist that painted a portrait of, I call it Napoleon, Black Napoleon, but it's not Napoleon. He told me who it was. I don't know if that piece is still on the back of the museum.
Unfortunately, it's not.
Oh my God.
I know. It always kind of kills us to have to paint over things when they're done straight on the wall. It was just for one exhibit.
It was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was kind of a promotional thing.
And
it was beautiful, though.
It was. That's the other thing I like about the museum. It not only, I mean, what I was saying, it promotes local artists. You've had installations from local artists, and I cannot remember who the photographer was. That was upstairs, and he had people portraits in some of the all old costumes, and they were gorgeous.
Let's see, was it Milton Green maybe? He's not local though. See, we were just talking about this at the museum today. We've done so many exhibitions. They kind of blur together for the staff.
Well, this guy was up in
The mezzanine?
up in the mezzanine. No, not in the mezzanine, at the top.
Oh, the rooftop.
The rooftop. And he was in with Momentum.
Oh, okay, yeah. I vaguely remember. Again, this was a couple years ago.
It was 2019.
At any one time, we're working on like 2 to 3 exhibitions that the public doesn't know about. So I've slept a lot since then. We work with a lot of different artists.
Yeah, you do. But it's been amazing because I remember when I was there for the is it Momentum or Momentous?
It was Penny James. I just remembered.
Okay.
Yeah, she's my neighbor too. She's lovely.
See, you in trouble. And Whataburger had that huge.
That was wild.
Mom.
I know. What art museum are you ever going to go to that partnered with Whataburger? It wasn't until that reception that I knew they have a mascot.
What's the mascot?
Well, I know. It had this massive white and orange head with a cape, and the kids at the reception either loved it or were terrified of it. But there was a gigantic mum that they commissioned a float builder to make.
That thing was huge.
It was gigantic.
I've got pictures of it somewhere.
Oh, yeah. And then Kendall and I actually tried to get in the spirit, and we made our own Arlington Museum of Art mum, too.
Yep.
Poor Kendall still has a scar from where she was trying to saw a piece of plywood because the dang thing was so heavy. We needed a better support for it, and I was braiding ribbon while she's trying to saw wood. I'm like, this is not going to end well.
No.
Lo and behold, she still has that scar.
But, I mean, this place is so much fun to be, I can't call it a little museum because it's really good size. But at any given time, you don't only have one exhibit. You can have, I think the most I've seen there were 3.
Yeah.
Because I remember Red's, the Japanese one, Hige.
Hiroshiga?
Yeah, the one I can't pronounce that Gary laughed at me. And then Steer Street or something Street.
Oh.
They were all there at the same time.
Yeah.
And it took me like to the end of the exhibit to get around to see everything.
It takes a while, it does.
But it was so much fun.
I mean, our museum has 4 floors.
Yep.
And it's funny to think that in the grand scheme of things, we really are a small museum, but the building feels huge. And Mary, I know you know this, but the history of our building is that we were actually a J.C. Penney back in the 1960s.
When I was in college, that's where I used to, well, I wasn't in college in the 60s, but in the late 70s, early 80s, when I was in college at UTA, that's where I would go shopping.
Yeah. We get stories all the time of Arlington locals coming and going like, I used to hide here, and that's where the lingerie section was. And like, all right, well, I can tell you what art's in there now. We have all sorts of weird little quirks about the building, because I swear it's had 9 lives in the meantime.
Yeah.
There's a place in our basement where I have no clue how it happened, but there's the imprint of a wire hanger in the concrete floor. We're like, how did this happen? What happened here? We're convinced it's haunted.
Well, I don't know if you've ever been there at night.
Oh, yeah. That's why we think it's haunted.
Because I've been there at night when Aaron would have band things there. And, I would be like the resident adult.
Yeah.
And so I would be walking around, and it would be kind of...
It's spooky.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I was at was a Halloween thing, and we didn't decorate for Halloween.
You don't need to. At night, it's scary. That being said, the museum really is beautiful. When we do exhibits, please still come.
Yeah.
But it's
y'all,
creepy.
You're not going to get exhibits like this anywhere else. You're not. The traveling exhibits that come in there are amazing. So keeping that in mind, because I got to stay with the time, what exhibit... tell us a little bit about some of the exhibits, and we've talked about some of them, but give us a little bit more information. Then I want to talk about that exhibit that's coming, because I am just totally excited about that one.
I am too. It's one of my bucket list exhibits that I wanted us to get. The very first exhibit that I was officially hired on the staff for was Keith Haring, which she's repping. We had the best merch for that exhibit.
Yes, you did.
It was so fun. That was probably the exhibit that really made me fall in love with the museum. I think it did such a good job of showing the heart of our institution, and it started off a relationship that we still have with the Rubel Museum in Miami. That's where we got all of those pieces.
Because I was wondering, because when I was talking to Kendall and Nancy, they were saying that a family in Florida, in Miami, owned the exhibit and let us use it. But I never really
Yeah. The Rubels are incredible. We're so incredibly lucky to have the relationship with them that we do. So the Rubel family actually has connections to Steve Rubel, who was one of the founders of Studio 54. So they have strong ties in New York. They lived there during such a fun time in art. So Andy Warhol and Keith Haring and Basquiat are all coming up. And they weren't art collectors initially. I believe her husband was a doctor and Mara was a school teacher, and they would set aside her salary every month and use that money to start collecting art. And Mara Rubel just has this incredible, it's almost like a sixth sense of knowing which artists just have something really special. So they were extremely close with Keith Haring. He was kind of almost like another son to them.
Yeah.
And they just have this incredible art collection. I was just pulling stats about it because the exhibit we're getting this summer is also coming from that same.
I heard.
Yeah, we're so excited. They have something like 7,000 pieces of art in their collection now, and they're just absolutely amazing. They just opened their new facility. They moved buildings, so they've moved from being the Rubel Family Collection to now the Rubel Museum. And
is it in Miami?
It is in Miami.
Okay.
We were so lucky. We did a board trip there right before everything shut down last year. Or I guess 2 years ago now. Oh,
yeah,
my
because I remember
goodness.
when y'all were going on it was just before I moved to Hawaii.
Yeah, but we got to meet Mara and we got to see the new museum, and it's just incredible. We're so, so lucky to be continuing that relationship, and they've been so good to us. They just feel like family now. I remember when we met Mara and she was able to tell us all of these stories about Keith Haring that just made you want to cry. And I remember her walking up and going like, "You've shared my son, now we're family."
Oh.
And we're like,
And I remember I was stationed in Berlin, and I took a picture before the wall came down because I was going over to do shopping and had to go through Checkpoint Charlie. And I was standing in front of the wall where he had done his mural. And I'm standing there in uniform. I had showed Gary the picture and never even thought, I knew he had done it, but never even thought about it. And that was back in the 80s. And I was like, God, this is full circle for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was incredible. Keith Haring, if you're not familiar with his work, I think he's definitely worth a quick Google search, if nothing else. Mary's rocking some of his work on her shirt today. The thing is, even if you don't know his name, I can almost guarantee you know his work.
Oh, you know his work.
It's just so worked into society in the meantime. I mean, he did some collaborations with Sesame Street. His work is still relevant as ever. His foundation rather just did a huge collaboration with Adidas not long ago. Like, his work
a lot
is
of the
still
rappers
everywhere.
wore a lot of his his stuff.
Madonna
a lot
did
of
too.
Yep, a lot of the musicians
Yeah.
wore a lot of his stuff.
And that's the thing, though. He was just in that group in New York in the 80s where, you know, he and Madonna came up at the same time, and they would be going to clubs, and there are all these incredible pictures of him, like, painting straight on to models and painting Madonna's jacket for her birthday, and he's just this incredible icon. But I think my favorite part of it, because everything I do at the museum will ultimately come back to education, so I end up doing a ton of research for my job, which I'm an art history nerd, so it's kind of my perfect job. I think my favorite part of it, though, was just reading what a wonderful person Keith Haring was. In addition to being this amazing artist, there are stories about him that just make you want to cry. He just seemed like such a sweet, genuine person, loved working with kids. He did all sorts of charity work with children's groups. And he passed away tragically of AIDS in 1990.
Yep.
And because he knew that his health was declining, he had time to set up a foundation that's still extremely active today. And it's wonderful. If you have little kids in the house, there are still all sorts of really cool art activities you can do if you go to his foundation's website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening, this is Dr. Mary Payton with All About STEM Radio. I come to y'all every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time here on Fishbowl Radio Network from Globe Life Park, Arlington. And I'm here with my producer, and he's going to kill me because I cannot remember his name. Trent.
She got it.
Trent, I got it.
She guessed like 8 times before we started, and they were all wrong.
I only see him once a week.
She knew it was a T.
It was a T. Yeah, Trent keeps me straight. He's one of the few producers who will yell back at me.
Yep.
But anyway, we are talking about the Arlington Museum of Art and the exhibits that they've had and the things that they do. And we want to talk a little bit about the new exhibit, which I am utterly and totally excited about.
So I'm honored to even get to publicly announce it. This is our second collaboration with the Rubel Museum in Miami, and we are bringing the exhibition 30 Americans to Arlington, Texas. It is just one of the most incredible exhibits, y'all. Like, I cannot overstate how honored and excited we are to be bringing it. Mm-hmm. It features 31 of the most incredible African American contemporary artists. So, I mean, even if you aren't familiar with art necessarily, like names like Basquiat, I think most people know in the meantime, just if nothing else, because Jay-Z is constantly making references. They have the same hairstyle right now. Again, if you aren't familiar with these people, so worth a quick Google search. They're incredible. Carol Walker has incredible work. Michaelaine Thomas is absolutely amazing. I will always have such a soft spot for Purvis Young. He's another really incredible artist with a really fascinating backstory. I have my little cheat sheet of our piece list here. We have some works coming from Mark Bradford, Nick Cave. If you go on our website, on the page for 30 Americans, it gives a full list, so you can do some Googling and check them out. But we are just so excited. This exhibit is definitely, it's going to be full of emotion. I think everybody's going to react to it a little bit differently because we have so many different pieces going on, so many different artists, and you really get a full range of emotion here. So some of them are really dark and confront a lot of racial violence that they're hard to look at. They're hard to sit with. There are some pieces where it feels like a gut punch, like that sucks the air out of the room in an important way that it's important we sit with.
Because I know this is taking an artistic look at racism, sexism, classism, a lot of the things that the African American diaspora has gone through over the decades of being here. And then, I'm really wanting to see some of, I want to see that journey. Yeah. But I also want to see what they're putting out because, all of it isn't dark.
Yes, and I do want to reiterate. We have some really fun, light pieces as well. There's, for as much sadness and grief, there's just as much levity.
Yep.
And there are some pieces where, it's kind of art for the sake of art. It's contemporary. It's whatever you want it to be. I think some of my favorites in terms of sort of light, fun pieces, look up Nick Cave. His sound suits are so fun. the installation of that's going to be really cool. They're like life-sized. They go on mannequins. They can be used for sort of a dance if you want them to.
So it's not just paintings. It's also...
it's every type of art you can imagine.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so we're going to have some big installations. Our installer is already looking at us like, y'all are crazy. It's going to be great, though. We have some video installations. There's one that almost feels theatrical. It'll be the only piece on the rooftop. So I also want to put out there, we are trying to make sure that we're putting out content warnings and trigger warnings because some of the pieces in this exhibit are difficult. So especially if you're bringing little ones, we absolutely encourage you to bring kids. Please, please, please still come out. It's so important to have these conversations with our children.
Yes.
However, we are aware you don't always want your little kid to see violence or nudity or anything like that. So the way we've curated it has kind of been in a stoplight style. So you can think about our main gallery as green. You can bring kids, you can bring really sensitive viewers, everybody's going to be okay. If you go to our 3 mezzanine galleries, that's kind of going to be your yellow. So we have a content warning. There's maybe some pieces that are a little bit more difficult. And then we've reserved one piece in particular for our rooftop gallery. It is an absolutely incredible piece. I feel really honored that we're getting it. However, it's one that is difficult to sit with. It's one that is potentially triggering. I think anybody that enters that room is going to have a really strong emotional response to it.
Yes.
So that's kind of our red level of you will have been warned so many times by the time you get to the rooftop gallery. But I don't want to say too much about it. I don't want to spoil it. But it's an incredible piece.
And, you know, that's the other thing. Y'all, this sounds like this exhibit is going to take up all of the museum.
It does.
Because I've been there and we've had 3 exhibits going on at the same time. You know, some in the basement, the main floor, the mezzanine was one whole exhibit, and then another exhibit on the rooftop.
This exhibit is so big that it's taking up all of the space we have and more. We actually start construction tomorrow to build new walls. So when you are, some museum lingo, when you're trying to book a show, there's something called running feet, and that means how many running feet of walls you need to accommodate the show. The running feet for this exhibition was insane. So we started looking at our budget and going like, I think we need walls. I think we need to build more. So we have a lot going on. In our main gallery, we're constructing 2 temporary walls between pillars. We'll be doing construction in that little Danker gallery. So yay, construction right outside my office, but it'll be worth it.
And this is opening when?
This is opening May 29th, and it'll be open until September 5th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you have all summer to go see it. The museum is always nice and cold, so if nothing else, it's a great way to escape the heat. We still have plenty of COVID procedures in place.
Okay.
And then on top of that, statistically, one of the safest outings you can do is at a museum. It's one of those places where you kind of naturally socially distance because you give people their space when they're viewing art. And it's one of the reasons I love museums is it's this wonderful mix of peaceful and exhilarating. So nobody's really going to bother you. It's kind of the same idea of walking into maybe a church or a library where you can be quiet and you can reflect on what you're seeing, but the content that you're seeing is so interesting. And we're also so excited to be rolling out a new technology called Guide by Cell. So when you first walk into the museum, you'll see a little QR code. You can scan it with your phone. And it's basically just a private browser. So it's like all of the benefits of having an app without having to like stand there and download something.
Yeah.
So we have interns working so hard on this. I'm so grateful for them. It's sort of like having your very own personalized tour on your phone.
Oh.
So, and an effort to cut down on high touch things.
Yes.
Because of COVID, we're not doing brochures, but just about everybody has a smartphone these days. So on your phone, you'll be able to get information about our museum. We'll have artist profiles on every single artist, information on every single piece. I was just working with one of our interns today, and she's writing incredible descriptions about each piece that are just, they're wonderful. I feel like any one of them could be published. I'm so proud of the work my interns have been doing. And then in addition to that, you also have some kids content, so some crafts that you can go home and do with your little ones that can help you continue some of that learning at home.
Sounds like this is going to, well, it's going to be a excellent exhibit. Where is the library? Where is the museum? What's the address? Or, how did somebody find it on social media? And what are the hours right now? Or what are the hours going to be? Because I know y'all had specific hours due to COVID. You weren't open as much.
We do. So we're located at 201 West Main Street, 76001, I think. I think that's our zip code. I know it's 201 West Main Street. The reason Mary said library is that we are right across the street from the main branch of the Arlington Public Library.
Yes.
It's massive, it's beautiful, it's hard to miss. Our hours, I believe, are still going to be Wednesday through Saturday from 10 to 5, and then Sundays from 1 to 5.
Okay.
We've been closed to the public so long, I had to think about that. We've been shut down for a while preparing for this exhibit because it has been all hands on deck.
No wonder Gary was on me this morning saying, are you going to volunteer this summer? Because I need you.
Well, one of the other things my entire staff was saying is like, ask people if they're interested in volunteering. Because it's so big, we need all hands on deck. So if anything I'm saying sounds fun or interesting and you would like to volunteer, you can go on our website and there's a form there. Mary can vouch. It's fun. You get to just be around art.
I did it for over 2 years, and I'm going. My plan is to go back at the beginning of the year, but I may have to do this exhibit.
We gotta get you back. We miss you. We all miss you. You should have seen our faces when she announced she was moving to Hawaii. We were all heartbroken.
I told you it was only for 1 year.
You left us
for 1 year. Somebody has to do it.
I know.
And I had a blast. But, the museum has so much more to offer than just the various exhibits I have. And I know COVID has put a damper into some of the things. But are y'all going to, you support education, you support educators. I've seen teachers do their in-services there. Are y'all going to be supporting any of that by the end of and your children's program, your youth education programs? Are you going to be supporting any of that through the end of the year?
Absolutely. So education is a huge part of our mission statement, which I'm grateful for because that's a big part of my job. So they intertwine together really beautifully. As I mentioned before, we're doing Youth Art Month right now.
Yeah.
In addition to that, we have a long-standing tradition of offering summer art camp where we also partner with AISD. A lot of the kids that are there are from Title I schools. They're there on scholarship. The AISD has been able to offer full scholarships for hundreds and hundreds of kids over the years. We are so lucky to be able to do it. We hire AISD art teachers to come and teach the courses, and that's just the education we're offering for kids. We offer education for every different age level. One of my goals within my position is to make sure that anything I'm doing is something that I would legitimately want to leave my house for, and I'm a hermit, so if it sounds fun enough for me to leave my house, it's gonna be good. I'm always texting my friends too of like, would this be interesting enough to make you get out of bed? And if it's not, we don't do it. So we'll also have some really incredible lectures. Kendall has been working so hard to make sure we have just some of the most incredible speakers. And one of the reasons we've been so excited about this exhibit is that I really think it'll facilitate some really, really important conversations that we need to be having as a community. If anybody has paid any attention to the news in the last few years, there's been a lot of racial violence happening. And there's so much generational trauma to unpack. And this exhibit, because we have so many pieces that range from happy to sad to angry, there's really a sense of going through the stages of grief almost when you go through this exhibit. And so because we know that it's an exhibit that takes a lot out of you emotionally. So we have lectures coming up on intersectionality. We have lectures coming up on race in the arts and what Black artists look like in America.
Yep.
In addition to that, we have some that are just about the art, kind of taking a step back from race and just saying, like, ignoring everything else about this, these are still amazing pieces of art. Let me tell you why. We're really lucky to have a strong relationship with UTA. We do our best to try and make sure we have strong relationships with every level of education in Arlington. So AISD and UTA have always been wonderful partners of us. In addition to that, we'll also be having some fun, slightly less educational programming. So we're launching a new event series called Self-Care Sunday.
Oh, you know what? You obviously you notice you just struck a nerve.
Oh, yeah.
Because with everything that's going on, I mean, self-care has always been a big thing.
Yeah.
But with everything that's going on with COVID, people are having to really start trying to think about taking care of themselves because a lot of us aren't doing it. I mean, I've gained my COVID-19 20, 30,
Girl, same.
40. No, I haven't gained that much. But I've gained my COVID-19 because you are so stagnated.
Yeah.
You know, now we're having to force ourselves to go back to work. To those of us who choose to get the vaccine, you know, how do we move back out into the world?
Yeah.
You know, based on this.
Yeah, it's a challenge. But yeah, because of all of the things you just mentioned, and because we do know that this exhibit, it takes a lot out of you. I think it's absolutely worth it, and the pieces are amazing, but it's one that makes you kind of think, and there's some emotional work you kind of have to do when you're going through the exhibit.
Now, the exhibit, I know the Arlington Museum, there's a price to get in.
There is.
But it's not overly expensive.
I don't think so, at least in comparison to other museums. So for this exhibit, adults are $15 and seniors and students are $10.
That's cheap.
Yeah, and kids 12 and under are always free. And then Mary Knows military is also free. Yeah, I hope at least people think it's well worth it.
Yeah. And you know what, people, I want y'all to think about this. I'm going to put this out there. I'm breathing this into reality and understanding that the museum has like you can pay a yearly pass. And when you look at that in comparison to other museums, it's very inexpensive. And do we still have the what do you call it, where you can go to other museums based on the fact you've bought a membership to
I don't
ours?
believe so.
Okay.
That's an excellent question.
Yeah, COVID has changed some things. A lot of things have changed.
Yeah, there have been a lot.
But to get a membership is for you and or your family, and to go to these specific exhibits, you know.
Yeah. An individual membership is $50. So if you think about it, you know, if you're going to all of our exhibits, it's very cheap. And I also want to add in, we do have benefits for members in particular. So like anytime we do an event for the museum that would be closed to the public, your membership gets you into those. So, and Mary can vouch, we have fabulous charcuterie and wine, and you get to go and feel very fancy at an art museum.
You get to dress fancy.
You do. I have a whole side of my closet that's just for the events I have to do at the museum, or get to do, rather.
Yes.
A family membership is $100, and I believe sustaining. I was just updating our website today, and I didn't write it down.
Well, they can go to what's the website? They can go to the website and see all of this.
The website is arlingtonmuseum.org.
Yes, .org.
Thank you, Mary. I made the dang website. I should know. I built it from scratch. Thank you. And our socials are all at Arlington Museum.
Okay.
We are posting all the time. You can't miss us.
Yes, you can. No, you can't.
Well, one of the things that really makes us kind of sad is it happens all the time that people refer to us as Arlington's best kept secret.
It is Arlington's best kept secret. Because I remember when when I was volunteering there and people were coming up from Austin and different places and Round Rock and coming down from Oklahoma. And I'm like, how did y'all hear about this? Well, we follow the museum.
Thank you. That's on me too. That's part of what I do here. Hello.
Look at you. They like, well, we follow the museum, and so I'm like, okay, and and the fact is, it's there's one thing I want to discuss is y'all are so much in the community. So many community groups come in, like different organizations come in as a group, schools come in as a group. And
one of the other things I wanted to mention as well, if you come in with a group of, I believe it's 10 or more people, it's actually $5 a person. So let's say you have a youth group or a ladies group, or I give tours to school kids all the time. It's really a very inexpensive thing to come and do. If you happen to like hearing me today, I'm probably the one that will be your docent. Because we have 4 people on our staff, we all do a lot. Also, thank you for complimenting the social media, because that's also me. But yes, it's a wonderful way to come and spend a day at the museum.
Yeah, and with a membership, because like I was saying earlier, it took me a while to really go through some of the exhibits, especially the Keith Haring and the Japanese one that I cannot pronounce.
Hiroshige.
Yeah, Hiroshige. It's Hiroshige.
Hiroshige.
Yeah,
you're correct.
That's how Gary pronounces it. It took me a while to go through those exhibits because I wanted to read what was going on, and not just look at the picture and walk away. I wanted to actually read, because you have such good descriptions of everything, and it makes it just was it took me a while.
Well, that makes the art historian in me very happy to hear, because I work really hard on those.
Because I know one of the exhibits, I had to come on my off time and actually go through the exhibit because I didn't have time to do it while I was working.
There's a lot to look at. We have a lot of different floors.
Yeah. Now, I know we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Don't hit me. Oh, I have 3 minutes left.
Ooh, Mary.
But you also support the community by having, I don't know if y'all still do that. People can rent out space for weddings, but right now with this exhibit, you probably won't have much of that.
There are a lot more restrictions.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a pretty high insurance premium on this one. We have some absolute national treasures coming in. So we cannot have food or drink in the main galleries. So it does put a damper a little bit on the types of events you can host here. But when we don't have exhibits like this, we've hosted beautiful weddings before, baby showers, bridal showers. We've hosted all sorts of stuff. We just did a classical concert a few days ago in our main gallery. So, and everything we talk about today, you can find on our website. Again, it's arlingtonmuseum.org. You'll have to let me know if I'm missing anything, because that is yet another thing I do.
Well, I forgot my outline today, but that's okay. We've got the social media, we got the events, we talked about the staff, you gave us information about the journey of the museum and what's coming up, and I am extremely, extremely, extremely excited. And I'll be promoting that on the show's social media pages, because my heart is the Arlington Museum of Art, because when I retired the first time,
she just can't stay away, y'all.
Chris said, "I'll give you something to do," and I have loved it. Loved it.
We just redid our office. We're waiting for you.
But I got to get with Kendall.
I know.
I got to see how much. Okay, I got 2 minutes. I've got to get with Kendall, because I do want to. I'm not going to do it this summer, but next summer, when things die down and we can bring kids back in, I want to do a graphic coding thing there, because since I have learned how to do this, I'm like so excited. And it's through elementary, and it's a animated coding.
Fun. Well, we have 3 classrooms too.
I know.
In addition to everything else we got going on, we have 3 classrooms, so we have space for you.
Okay, but hey, Lily, I want to thank you for coming and giving us all of this information. And if you're in the Metroplex, starting May 28th or 29th, May 29th, this exhibit is going to be amazing. The Arlington Museum of Art gets exhibits that you would see in New York or in Miami, or if you are interested in Harlem Renaissance, I'm quite sure they're going to have paintings from that. So please, please, please come by the museum. And hey, ladies and gentlemen, my producer's over here poking me. So I guess I better start winding this up. But hey, this is Dr. Mary Payton with All About STEM Radio. And don't forget, I come to you every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Time here at Fishbowl Radio Network at Globe Life Park. And until next week, good night.